Hey, what's up guys? No DCC today. We're going to start doing some layout updates in between everything. And this is the layout room. Got it all cleaned up finally. There's where my test track's been and where we've done some of the other videos. There's the office where you see me do some stuff, and that's where I like to hang out. Anyway, this is a room that is 30 by 14 feet, except for this little part here that's notched out a little bit. It's taken me almost a year to get this room ready. Not that it's had a year's worth of work, but we've had holes in the drywall there. We had a big hole in the ceiling there. Some other paint. This whole room's got new paint. Got most of it done. I had to replace a bunch of this soffit because we had a leak in one of the bathrooms upstairs. So we had all that. This is the bottom floor of the house. Did a bunch of work here, put some new doors in, ran some new electric, ripped out a couple walls here, put some new walls in, made a closet out of it. I've done some work here in this room, and that goes upstairs. And here is the workshop, and there's the start of the lumber for what we're going to have. Do some bench work. So there we are, and well, let's get started. Right. Look at that. There's an old saying, measure twice, cut once. Going to be the shelf for all of the electronics, such as the DCC command station, PR3 programmer, as well as the analog controller, should anybody want to run regular DC stuff here in the layout. Alright, like I said, this shelf is going to be for all the electronics. I'm going to install 3 switches here, and we'll have 3 receptacles behind it that'll power each one respectively. I may want the command station on, but I may not want the programmer on. And if I have the command station on, I most certainly don't need the regular DC power pack on. So that's how that's going to run there. Alright guys, I want to show how this works. This is just a simple extension cord. I actually got this idea from another YouTube user, Flyman JG. So credit where credit due. I was going to use a piece of Romex and just splice the end of it and plug that in, but extension cord works just as well. Right here we're going to split it, positive, negative, hot and return, whatever you want to call them. White and black is what we have. Now the white line is going to go down into this box here. And it's going to hook up to each one of these on one end, and it's just going to daisy chain its way on through until you get to the last one. And then there's 3 black leads that work on this side of the receptacle that go on up to the box here where the switches are going to be. So each switch will operate each one of these receptacles. Let's scoot around here to the other side. The black lead of the extension cord, if you can see it up in there, comes up here in the box, and I've simply spliced it into 3 different wires. One's hooked up to the switch already. Here's the remaining 2. And the black wires that came from here are right up here. So white goes into the box, it's always on, it's always live. The black will only be activated when the switch is turned on, because one wire from the box is on one end and the other is from the extension cord on the other end. Okay, the next thing you guys got to do is hook up the solid copper wire or green wire to where the ground fault part of the circuit goes. You can either do it on the switch side or the receptacle side, either way is fine. So I've got the extension cord plugged in. I will coil this up nicely and hang it up somewhere so it's out of the way, and I've got some extra room in case I decide to plug this in somewhere else, or this particular piece of benchwork ends up moving somewhere else other than what I expected. Got a really low-tech tester that I'm using to test the circuit with. I can't even tell you where I got this from, but all I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug one in here and plug the other in here. I'm going to flip the switch, oops, and see what I got. Hopefully I can do this with the camera in my hand. But I'm going to go and flip the switch. I'm going to do this before I put the plates on. So switch is on, and I have power. Switch is off, and I have no power. So that works. I'm going to repeat this through the rest of them and make sure everything works. Alright, putting the paneling on, I went with white because the Digitrax UP5 panels for tethered units are also white, so it'll look uniform once the fascia board comes up over here at some point down the road. Everything works fine. The only other thing I really want to talk about is the gauge of wire that you use. I use a little bit thicker extension cord, those little $3 ones you get at Walmart, whatever. You definitely don't want to use that. I recommend using something that coincides with the code, building code that's in your area. For example, the outlet that I plugged this into is a 15 amp outlet. The breaker in the circuit box is 15 amps. Therefore, the code in this area, and I'm sure at some point abroad, this is a Chicagoland area, says that I need a minimum of 14 gauge wire for a 15 amp circuit. If it was a 20 amp outlet, you want to use a minimum of 12 gauge wire. Now you can get away with something smaller if all you're putting here is something that's only going to run a couple of amps. You can get away with a 16 or 18 gauge wire. I don't recommend that because if for any reason you decide to plug something else into here, even by accident, let's say I need to plug in a vacuum cleaner or something, I need to clean something up down here, or anything that's going to pull the full 15 amps, you run the chance of melting your wire because it will heat up, and you can possibly start a fire that way. So I went with 14 gauge on the extension cord, and this happens to be 12 gauge. Not that it needed to be, just what I had lying around, so that certainly fits within that.